I'm Lou Carter of the Middletown Health Department, and this is Healthline. Approximately 113,000 Americans are waiting for a life-saving organ transplant, and another person is added to that waiting list every 10 minutes. In fact, 22 people die each day in the U.S. because the organ they need is not donated in time. Yet, one organ, eye, and tissue donation can save and heal more than 75 lives. Catherine DeValiscus is here to tell us why and how you or someone you know should consider becoming a life-saving donor. Welcome to Healthline. Our guest today is Catherine DeValiscus. Ms. DeValiscus is a volunteer with Donate Life Connecticut. She's been here once before, and we'd like to thank you for returning to the program.
Thank you very much for including us.
And remind us about the wonderful work that your organization, Donate Life of Connecticut, does.
Donate Life Connecticut is purposed to increase the number of organ and tissue donors through education, social environment opportunities, where we go into health fairs. We do education programs with the high schools, colleges, medical schools. We work closely with New England Donor Bank, New England Donor Services in Massachusetts, which covers the Connecticut region, and we work with the hospitals, Yale and Hartford Hospital, who are the major transplant hospitals of Connecticut, to encourage people to be registered donors and to learn about the proper information about being a donor.
And I think a lot of people don't understand the process and why it's so important. Maybe you could explain. I think people have a sense of, yes, that's a nice thing to do, donate an organ, but tell us more about that.
So being a registered organ and tissue donor, first and foremost, important thing to do is to make sure that your family is aware of your decision so that when the time does come, they have an opportunity to know that it was your decision and that you made it with a heartfelt and giving gesture. The opportunity to save up to 8 lives with major organs, kidneys, liver, pancreas, intestines, heart, lungs, and tissues, up to 75 people can benefit from any type of tissue, veins, cartilage, bone, and many other kinds of tissues as well, can improve the life of people and very often better their opportunity to become contributing members of society, go back to work, be people who have the opportunity to recover from major illnesses. So sometimes persons who have burns or mastectomies or any type of repairs from injuries, skin, any of those tissues can be helpful and beneficial to not only the healing process, both physically but mentally as well. A lot of people fear that the process, that the medical procedure determines someone to become eligible when they are brain dead. So they are officially no longer considered viable for supportive, independent living. They are properly tested, often several times, in the presence of their family members and proper medical staff to determine that they will no longer be able to resustain life. They are on mechanical support. So sometimes people call it life support, but it's actually mechanical support. So it's a ventilator. There are machines that are operating hearts, lungs, pumping the blood through the body. Those options are something that you can't live without because you're technically brain dead. People fear that the brain dead terminology and category of the medical term is going to be automatically listed as something in order to receive the organs for additional people to survive. Not the case. The Hippocratic Oath obligates medical personnel to make sure that the person in front of them at that time who's in need is properly cared for. They are properly treated. All measures are taken to support and survive their life with no cause, concern, or knowledge about who's in need at that time.
Is there a certain age or certain type of person that can be a donor or should be a donor?
Well, of course, I think everybody should register to be an organ and tissue donor. It's life-saving. It's beneficial. It's an opportunity to continue a giving and loving life after death. Anyone can register. All persons that become at a point upon passing that are eligible are determined by medical staff based on health at the time of passing and conditions of passing. Anyone under the age of 16, it is determined by parental consent. Anyone between 16 and 18 can sign up on their own with an opportunity for parental consent at that time. And then 18 and over, it is a legally binding decision. And if you register either through the Department of Motor Vehicles with your license, on the website for Donate Life Connecticut or registerme.org, that decision is time-stamped, legally binding. It carries you from state to state, and you can actually have that information available to any medical staff regardless of where you move to, wherever you're vacationing, and should an unfortunate circumstance occur there, and they would provide life-saving opportunities to the people in that area. It follows you. So,
Are all the organs, once you agree to this, are all your organs available at that time for donation, or is it a specific organ?
So all organs are considered eligible for donation and tissue at the time of passing when you register. So I myself, I received a liver, so they would not consider my liver to be eligible. It's one donation only, but everything else is eligible. And there are a lot of medical testing that goes on for a potential donor, so they pretty much figure out what's available and what's a viable option for somebody in need.
You mentioned that you're a receiver of a liver.
Correct.
Can you share that experience?
Absolutely. So I was born in the 70s, and back then there wasn't a lot of information regarding liver disease of infants. I was born with what's called biliary atresia. They had told my parents that I'd had a up to 2-year survival rate without a transplant, and for whatever reason, the good Lord decided that I should stick around, and I actually survived with my original liver until I was 39 years old. So that was pretty impressive. I'm really grateful for that. I had the opportunity to get married, have a daughter. I have a viable career. I've since become a single mom. So in that time frame, I have a successful relationship. I have a great collection of family and friends. So not only was I granted the opportunity to still be happy and reasonably healthy and functioning up until 39, at 39 when I received my transplant, I was able to move forward and restart my life and really become an active person again. Because sometimes when you're sick, you're just not your 100%. I was very fortunate. Unfortunately, I did have to receive a deceased donor's liver because I needed the entire organ and all of the connections and certain particulars that would only make me eligible for a full liver donor. They do partial liver donors from living donors. My condition was not eligible for that at that time.
Is the liver the most donated organ?
So kidneys are the organ that are most in need. The kidney donor need is the highest number. I would have to say probably tissue's the most donated, only because of the volume of things that can be received that fall under that tissue category. There are a lot of multiple donors that recipients can get both. We had a recent volunteer that got a kidney and heart. And we had another one that received a pancreas and intestines. So sometimes what happens is a lot of people, due to being sick, have to end up getting multiple organs because things start to fail. It kind of travels through the system. I would say that the actual most in need is kidneys, though. A lot of people on dialysis.
You're listening to Healthline. Our guest today is Catherine DeVelasquez, and she is with Connecticut Donate Life Connecticut. That's the appropriate name for it. Let's
Correct.
get that straight.
No worries.
And tell us a little bit about the process of donation. You highlighted it a little bit before. There's no cost to this at all, is there? To
Absolutely
either party?
not. Either party, in regards to the registering or the family upon passing, the organization accepts responsibility for all medical treatment at that time once someone is being evaluated for donation at that time. And also, there's the insurance for the surgery and anything else that happens is picked up by the recipient. So the recipient's insurance actually covers all medical coverage. There's no additional cost upon funeral services. It is covered by, the actual donation is covered by most insurances as well for the recipient, which means it would be covered by the donor as well.
How does the matchup occur? In other words, if a person is in need, do you know the process of what happens?
The most important thing that needs to be matched is blood type and tissue type. So tissue type is actually very similar to the blood type issue. So they match that up. That's got to be a perfect match. And then size, because I was 5'9", and I was about 190 pounds at the time. Right now I'm 5'7" and the same. And unfortunately, I couldn't receive something from someone who was maybe 5 feet tall and 100 pounds. Organs have to be preferably very similar in size, which makes it interesting when a larger sized child who donates, somebody who's in their age range of anywhere from 14 to 17, donates to a younger adult. It doesn't necessarily always go child to child, obviously infant to infant, but a lot of body size makes a difference too. It has to be able to support the recipient in the existence that they have already.
Do you feel, or do you find, I should say, are there any objections to this, perhaps on religious grounds or other grounds that you've ever encountered?
I have encountered some people that have believed in certain myths that they've heard on TV or in the media, or now with social media, it really becomes an issue for certain people, which is why we do have a large social media presence. A lot of people think that, again, like I said, if they're in a car accident and someone sees that they're a registered donor, that opportunities aren't going to be made to sustain their life and help and survive and support them. Completely untrue. Those that are boots on the ground, the ambulance drivers, the medical personnel, fire department, police department, anybody that's at the scene of an accident has no idea whether or not somebody is a donor, nor does it make any difference to them at that time. They are legally bound to make all efforts to make that person a survivable option to get to the ER and get the treatment that they need. Those in the ER actually have no participating action when it comes to the actual donor process. So they too are there to make sure that everyone is doing everything they can to make that person a survivable option for surgery if necessary. And then the surgeons as well. Surgeons are there to save that person's life. The actual process itself is done through what's called an organ procurement organization, which is New England Donor Services in our area, and they're based out of Waltham, Massachusetts. Their medical personnel come into the hospitals. They're reached out to by people that are usually in the ICU and then have reached out to them, mandated by law, to contact the OPO when someone is close to passing. So there's a very determined, after great efforts offered to make someone survivable, when there's no longer an option, that's when the OPO comes in.
That's the point. Since you were here last time, which has been a number of years, do you know if the number of donors has gone up at all? Have you seen that in other words, your efforts are paying off?
I definitely think our efforts are paying off. The state of Connecticut numbers for registered organ and tissue donors has increased over the last couple of years. We've been very active in a lot of community opportunities. We actually have a new curriculum for the school systems that is eligible to any teacher that's interested, health teachers, science teachers. We can come into the schools. We have volunteers who will come in and speak, and that can be obtained through the website Donate Life Connecticut, and they can speak with Allison Keating on that matter, and she can put them in the direction of the people that are working very strong to get that into as many school systems as we can so that the younger generation has the opportunity to get the proper information right from the start.
From the Middletown Health Department, community health educator Lou Carter has interviewed Catherine DeValiscus about organ donations. For further information, call us at 860-346-1049. That's 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of this station. The WIHS Healthline is a once-monthly feature on the first Saturday of the month, here on 104.9 FM WIHS, Middletown.